Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about being extra good, ahead of the curve, and asking for more money. So let's get into it. So the question in question was a bit of a story. Hi Frederick, I hope everything's good with you. I'm translating this from Swedish now, so I might lose myself in all of this. I have now been working for as a consultant for a few years. No, actually 1 year. And the bosses are very happy with me, and my customer is really happy with me. Everybody's happy with me. And I've progressed to the point where I'm at a leader level role within my project. And I'm involved in all the decision making processes, and my teammates look at me as a senior coworker, even though I've only been working professionally for 1 year. Now, I feel, however, that my salary is a bit low and my company has a salary strategy where you get paid more based on how many hours you have been working for a specific customer. And I feel that this is I feel like I'm being underpaid, but I don't want to seem greedy. So even though I feel like I am at a senior level, I'm still being paid as a junior. How should I approach this? Well, I will tell you that you have to approach it the same way that practically anybody, regardless of if you're a senior or if you're a junior. Whenever you deal with a salary negotiation situation, what the only thing that will matter is one part: how much proof do you have that you are doing extra well, that you deserve all of this good stuff, right? How much can you prove? The other part is what is the actual strategy of the company that you're dealing with? How is your manager aware of all these things? Are they willing to bend the rules, or like what is their strategy? To to give you a very broad stroke explanation to what a salary management strategy basically is, every single company has one practically, unless you are working at a really small company where there's basically no structure whatsoever. There's going to be a salary management strategy, and the general thing that you will see is that there's going to be strategies that are qualitative. In other words, the harder you work, the better you are, and the more you can prove, of course, the better your salary situation is going to be. That doesn't mean that you can just, I mean, even if you have 1 year of experience, and even if you're the best junior who ever lived, odds are that they're not just going to go, hey, you know what, we're going to pay you as much as someone who has, you know, worked for 10 years or whatever, who has the same sort. Like, it's all based on skill on the other hand. But you have to, if anybody out there thinks that you're going to go from I just came out of school to I'm going to earn as much as somebody's been working for 10, 20 years, you're not. I promise you're not. It's practically impossible. But you will get rewarded appropriately most of the time for how good you are. That is one way of doing it. That strategy is very common in product companies, startups, and things of this nature, where the quality of the developer is actually directly tied to the revenue of the company. However, then you have the quantitative strategy, which is the case of this model, where the reason why they are going to set your salary based on how long you stayed at the customer is because that means that they don't actually count how good you are. They count how much money they're making from you. How invested is the company and the customer in you. That system, the reason why you create a system like that, well, the reason why you create any of these systems basically, is because it is very easy to administrate this. If you're dealing with a consultancy, especially if it's a big one, their primary focus is not to keep the best developers around, because they know they're not going to be able to do that. Most of them, like, even if you have the coolest consultancy in the world, you're not going to be able to sustain that business by just having the best of the best. You can try to get them, everybody wants them, but your primary focus is to rent out hours. That's why in your situation, their model for setting your salary is actually for them it's much more beneficial. Like, if you count the red and the green in the ledger, they're actually going to make more money from the total business if they just keep a very simple salary setting strategy. And they might lose some of the best, but that doesn't really matter as long as they maintain the customer. Because think about it, if they pay you more now, what changes? Nothing. The customer is still paying them the same for having you around on the project. And even if you work extra hard and you do everything and the customer is super happy with you, it doesn't really matter to the consultancy. They don't give a shit. Like, they're happy, of course, but they would have been in an equal position if you did just the bare minimum. If the customer was just happy enough with you so that they kept on paying for you. So you can absolutely change this, and of course, if there is, depending on your contracts and so forth, you can evolve the situation so that you actually make more. Some consultancies have incentive systems and things like that. I'm not saying that every consultancy is just trying to milk everything for money as much as possible, but you should be aware of that it's very common to have a quantitative strategy when you're dealing with a consultancy. Now, the way that you fix that is, unfortunately for you, the CV. You have to prove that you have the experience. You have to be because you are a resource, you're a product basically as a software developer. The more stuff you have on your CV and the more years you have and the more proof you have that you're really, really good, the better for you, the more valuable your profile is going to be. Even if, again, there's always a range here. Some people who have been working for 20 years are absolute shit, and it's like they're horrible at what they do. But if you sell them to the right company, you don't care. Because the company, I mean, their products may go to shit, but it doesn't matter because they're too stupid to figure out that this person is a problem, and they're still going to pay you to the consultancy. And some people are really, really good and like doing all the extra work, and you pay them nothing because you don't really value that. And as long as the customer is paying, who cares if I'm very sorry, but why would they care? So for you, this creates a really bad situation because you are being a qualitative developer. You're extra good and you're above your development curve, which is not going to fit into their strategy. And the only thing that you can hope for now is to go and be transparent with your boss. Go to your boss, bring proof that you are deserving of a better compensation. Every strategy, regardless of which one it is, almost always has a little bit of wiggle room for the managers who set the salary. In other words, even if you have the exact same profile, if two developers come in and they have the exact same profile, the manager might give you like a little bit of an increase here or a little bit of a decrease there, depending on how, like, they can wing it a little bit. They still have a range. It's not like they can give you a radically different salary. That's not going to fly. It used to be that way. Oh, those were the good old days. But most of the time now there's a range or some set number where they can wiggle a little bit, but they can't change the number all that radically. So you can probably influence this situation a little bit, but you should be aware of that if you want to see like a radical number where you get paid the same sort of money as the senior coworkers on your team, you can practically, it's very unlikely that you're going to get that until you have a CV that reflects the same sort of years. But you should still go and talk to your manager. You're not being greedy. You're actually being very fair about the situation. Just be very transparent and go and explain that the customer is super happy and you're dealing with all of this responsibility and you're way over the qualification level of like a junior developer, and just go from there and see where that leads. Ideally, your manager is going to be a very good person and understand the value in you, and they're going to either give you a slight increase or they're going to give you some type of incentive. They might give you a development plan so that maybe they're not going to pay you right now, but they're going to give you, okay, if you take on this and this and that, and then we can talk about the more serious salaries. If worst case scenario is that they say that, well, we can't really do anything because we have the model that we have, you should be prepared that can happen, because in many companies, as I said, that are more focused on quantity rather than quality, the process is actually more important to them than keeping around the really good developers. So what I want you to take away from this is that if you're in this situation, be aware of that every company has a strategy for how to set salaries. It's very good for you, especially in the early days, to figure out what that strategy is so you know what's going to matter, because you can work your ass off and it's not going to be rewarded. I've been on projects where they literally didn't give a shit if you were the best developer or you were the worst one. As long as you could produce the code that was necessary, everything else, like nothing mattered. We had people who were super enthusiastic and we had people who barely made it through the workday, and they were still paid roughly the same sort of money. So if you're dealing with that sort of company, you're going to have to make the call yourself. Either like you figure, like, just go and be transparent. Treat this as any salary negotiation, because trust me when I say this, if you really are deserving of a better compensation and the manager isn't a complete weirdo, they're gonna understand where you're coming from. They may not be able to do much about it, but they're gonna hear you out. And you're not being greedy, you're just being fair. Have a great day.